All right. Welcome to the second episode of We Are Not That Simple podcast, brought to you by Grace and Garfield Christian Reformed Church and Animate Concepts. I am Pastor Mo, and I am here today with my neighbor, Mr. Michael Carr. Michael Carr is retired from a few things, but not the Marine Corps.
Hurrah!
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yes.
In his retirement, he has been doing stand-up comedy. I've been to one of his shows. It was pretty fun, although they did call me out, which was, I expected it, the only light-skinned dude in the place. Any upcoming shows?
Nothing at the present time because right now I'm concentrating on my musical education. I'm presently going to Harold Washington College, and I'm going there for a music degree, an AFA degree in music, which I plan to further and get a BA in music.
Oh, okay, cool. I actually have a BA in music, in sacred music. Mm-hmm. So been there, done that, but a long time ago. Yeah. Although you did a lot of other things I haven't done a long time ago.
Yeah, because I'm a lot older than
Really,
you.
really, I can't tell. You look great.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm about a day younger than Methuselah.
All right. Well, so you born and raised on the West Side?
I was born and raised on the West Side. Born in Cook County Hospital, December 29th, 1955. Moved to 1518 South Sawyer, where I stayed until I got married. Well, actually, that's not true. 1518 South Sawyer until I graduated from high school in 1973, at which point I joined the United States Marine Corps.
Hoorah.
And hurrah! And I'm a Hollywood Marine for those Marines, so you know. And I spent 3 years there, traveled, was there for I'm a Vietnam era veteran. I came back, made babies. I got 6 kids, 17 grandsons, 5 granddaughters, which makes 22 grandkids, 2 great-granddaughters, and 2 great-grandsons. So, you know, I'm living the life. I'm also retired from the railroad as well as the United States Postal Service.
All right. And where'd you go to high school?
I went to high schools first at St. Philip's, which is no longer in existence. It was on Chicago and Jackson back in the day, which is now Our Lady of Sorrow. And then I graduated from St. Michael's Central High for Boys, 1640 North Hudson, which again no longer exists. The Catholic Church decided that when I went to these schools, they were going to close them.
They couldn't do any better.
No, they couldn't do any better.
Now, how was that for you? This would have been the 60s?
70s.
Early 70s.
Yes.
How did you feel about your Catholic education?
My Catholic education prepared me for a lot. It was more toward, school, knowing math, knowing how to read, knowing how to write. They worked on it. They taught us economics. Of course, they had religion in there, but the main thing is that they had this core that we all got along, because I went to school on the north side in the early 70s, which is predominantly white. Okay.
Oh, word?
Yes. My school diversity was like 80% white, 5% Hispanic and black, and then the other 5% was other. We had guys from Croatia. We had guys from other places. I went to school with a guy from Italy. His name was Luigi Prestia. He was one hell of a soccer player. My school in the independent league, we took the championship in soccer 3 years in a row.
Nice.
I mean, we were very diversified, and we got along. I mean, my high school experience was great, with the exception of my graduation. I graduated 1973, valedictorian of the high school, St. Michael Central for Boys. They never announced it at the graduation. I didn't even know. It was a boys' side and a girls' side, and they allowed the girl to speak at the ceremony. But again, I graduated with honors, and that's all that mattered. You can't take that away from the fact that they didn't announce it. And I wasn't worried about it, but my older sisters, they were really pissed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called life, and you just have to live it.
All right. Now, would you still consider yourself Catholic?
I'm not going to say I'm Catholic. I believe in God, because what I found out being Catholic and then being, a Southern Baptist as well, I find that there's only one God, and our Bibles are the same. It's just how we do the ceremony. So I would just say to myself, I'm a religious person. I'm not going to, depict to one denomination or other. I do attend a Southern Baptist church, but I will go to Mass. And I figure God is in all of them. So that's why I look at it.
Now, I believe one time when we were talking, you mentioned some other blood in you.
Yes, I have some other blood in me. I have a Hispanic blood, Mexican, and as well as Indian, the Blackfoot from Tennessee.
Now, where does that come from?
Well, the Mexican
Or
side.
how far back?
How far back?
Yeah.
We're talking. Let me see. My great grandfather and my great grandmother.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were both.
Yeah. Well, my great grandmother was mixed with the Blackfoot, and my grandfather was the one mixed with the Mexican.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Speak Spanish?
Only the bad words.
We might have that. I do know a little bit more than the bad words, but I'm probably most comfortable with the bad words and then asking where the bathroom is.
Yeah.
Right. Now, so you've been on the West Side a long time.
65 years. I'm 65 years and 9 months old.
Okay. Now, if you were talking to somebody who's not from the West Side, how would you describe some of the changes over the past several decades? I mean, what have you seen in your years, or how would you compare and contrast the West Side from when you were growing up to what you see today?
Okay, when I was growing up, like I said, I was born in 1955, so my West Side experience was through the 60s and the 70s. And during my younger years, the West Side was beautiful. I lived right around Douglas Park. At that time, it was considered Lawndale community, not West in the way they've broken it up now.
Okay, yeah.
And we went to Douglas Park. We had all kinds of social events going on at Holland School on 1616 South Spalding. The name has changed.
That's North Lawndale College Prep?
Right.
Yeah,
and that's where I went to grammar school at.
Okay.
And that was 1660 South Spalding. We had after school centers. We had things for the kids to do. We played in the park. There was, matter of fact, the West Side was its own community before the riots. I mean, down Roosevelt Road, you did not have to go downtown to buy anything. Roosevelt Road from Kedzie all the way down to Pulaski was a mecca. I mean, a mecca for us. I mean, we didn't have to go anywhere to do anything. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
We'll take care of that. There we go. And it was a mecca until the riots came. And when the riots came after King was assassinated, that was a riot in 1963, but it paled in comparison to what happened in 1968. I was 12 years old. It was on my baby sister's birthday, April the 4th, that Martin Luther King was killed. And I watched Roosevelt Road literally burn to the ground. You can watch television and see these horrific things of orange fire and blame. The only thing comparable to that was when I was in the Marine Corps in the village burn. I mean, it was just like that. I mean, and then can you imagine being a 12-year-old boy and you walk down your street and you got armed National Guards on the corner with rifles, some black, some white, some other. But, we're in the state of martial law because of Richard Daley decided that we needed that there. And and then he said, shoot to kill. That's another thing. Rioters shoot to kill. That was one of the most horrific things I've ever heard in my life from a mayor of this city, saying shoot to kill rioters. And after that point, the West Side literally went down. And it is now coming back up, which I knew that because of our location. The West Side is centrally located where we're located at. You get on the Central Park and Conservatory, you got 7 stops and you're downtown. You go back in the opposite direction, you got 8 stops and you're in downtown Oak Park. You can get on the Green Line and get off at Clark and Lake and catch the train and go to Midway on the Orange. Or you can get off, go down to Clark and Lake to the Blue Line and go to O'Hare. You can go straight down Lake Street. You can go down Madison. We're near the West Side is the booming part of Chicago now. The South Side is nice, but I always consider them being really bougie. And the reason why I say that, because when you mention you're from the West Side to a South Side, they go, you guys, But I always tell them that most South Siders, especially the persons of color, if you will, that came from the South, heard the word South and stopped and thought they were at home. Okay, where the more adventurous people went west. Go west, young man, go west. So, and the West Side is more homely. And when I mean not ugly, but I mean homely. You come on the West Side, we'll open our doors to you. We'll feed you. We'll help you. You go on the South Side, they look at you like you're nuts. They are so high strung, they have their heads so far up in the air that like the day is raining, somebody drowned on the South Side because of the rain, because their heads are so far up the air.
All right, well, we got to pause for a shameless plug. You heard it. The West Side is the place to be if you are interested in living here. I am a licensed realtor. Hit me up. All right, that's my shameless plug for the day.
That's okay. I mean, because, look, I've been living on the West Side most of my life except when I was married. I've been married twice, and got 2 ex-wives and a baby mama. We won't go over that. But anyway, but the West Side is up and coming. It is moving. It's grooving. And what can you do? You know what I'm saying? If you come over here, life as you know it will get better. Trust me. You hear a lot of things about that, but it's everywhere. Crime is everywhere. But as a neighborhood where Mo and I live at, we are tight. We watch out for one another. So come to the West Side and see Mo.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I grew up on the West Side, but over in Humboldt, just north of Chicago Avenue. That fine border, Chicago Avenue. The kings don't cross south. The disciples don't cross north. And so, but that started improving, oddly enough, because there's like no real good public transportation there in Humboldt Park, but it started moving up. And so my family moved south into Garfield. And it was scary in the beginning because, again, it's new territory.
Right.
I don't know these streets like I know the streets over there when I first moved in. But then you start to get to feel it's the same thing.
Right.
And then you get to know people and everybody's cool. And now we're going through some of the same changes that I remember going through, when I was 17, 18 in Humboldt Park. You see the people jogging in the park.
Right.
Which was new when I was 18 Humboldt Park. That wasn't.
Yes.
You didn't do that. Now I see that every now and then over here.
Right.
Home values going up. A lot of the similar changes. Now, how do you feel about it? Because there's a lot of talk. Some people happy about it. Some people think it's bogus. Home values going up. New people coming in, calling it gentrification and things like that. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm going to tell you, personally, this is how I personally feel. I think it's a great thing. Number one, you don't buy property for it to depreciate. You buy it to appreciate. Okay, that's number one. You want the value to go up. And if you don't take care of your property, it's going to depreciate. Now, a lot of the people, not all of the people, a lot of the people over here don't own anything. They're renters. They're living in somebody's building, and they feel like, well, the rent's going up, this, that, and the other. But you got to understand these people have mortgages to pay and things of this nature. So what you need to look at is what's good for the community, not just one individual. You know what I'm saying? So when I moved over here, people talked about me. I moved over here in 2009. And my coworkers talked about me greatly. Oh, man, you're going to the West Side. And like you, even though I'm from the West Side, I grew up in this area, like I said, 16th and Kedzie, Bucket of Blood, if I didn't mention that. For those of you that are older, you know what that means. And I grew up with, when the Vice Lodge first started, I had family members that were part of these gangs. And I've watched it go up, and I watched it come down. I'm watching it coming back up, and I like this. I like what's going on because you look across, we are half a block from Garfield Park, and we got nothing but park. We got the conservatory over there. We got all these high schools. We got St. Mel's. You got Marshall, which has been refurbished. You got Westinghouse, which has been refurbished. You got Al Raby, which used to be Lucy Flower. And then you got Orr High School, which I don't know what the new name of it is, on Chicago Avenue in Pulaski. So you got 5 high schools in this area. And that's what people look for when they move. They want a place where their children can go to school and they don't have to go far away or be bused. And then we got a hell of a lot of grammar schools around here. So I think that this is great, and I just want a more police presence in our area because they seem to think that this side of East Garfield isn't really worth anything, and I disagree with that vehemently. So I think that our alderman, Mr. Irving, needs to get himself in gear and start doing something over here, and rather than over where he's doing that for his other constituents.
Now, what have you seen in terms of the difference from when, because you moved, when did you move on my block?
2009.
In 2009. So 2009 to pre-COVID to now, have you noticed any changes, any differences, any trends?
Well, when I first moved here, there was a little bit of drug activity going over here. And I say a little bit because whomever that person was that lived on the corner where that building is had a pretty decent business. Because, and when I say decent business, people came, got their product, and they left. They didn't linger around. There weren't a bunch of people on the corner, anything like that. It was like somebody came by to visit them. They went in the house. They stayed a few minutes. They came back out, and they left. It wasn't a line of people coming. Then one morning I was taking my mom to the doctor and the police raided the place, and that's when the neighborhood went to shit because I'm assuming the other rival drug dealers decided, hey, this food is gone and we're going to take over. We've had shootings over here, in the past decade. a lot of things that have happened, especially right on the corner there where I saw a young man get shot, and the girl that he was with, rather than calling 911, she was videotaping it, which I thought was really strange. The young man didn't die, of course. But I see now in the last year or so, things are starting to move. More people are moving in. I consider myself the neighborhood greeter. I always see a new person, and I go and let them know who I am. If they want to know something, they need something, to see me. Because the one thing that when you're new in a place, you want someone to come help you, because you don't know anybody, and especially over here, you're somewhat apprehensive. If you're from a different race, you're apprehensive about, I bought over here, but so I'm the ambassador for Walnut Street. So, I will make myself known. I know I look like a thug, but I'm not.
No, and I think you do that well. Everybody on the block knows you. But so my family moved on the block, in 2007, I believe. I was still a very young man. I remember one of the first weeks we moved on the block, I had a gun put to my head, and it was robbed. And it was a bit rougher. Nothing that I didn't experience over in Humboldt. But then, fast forward to 2019, I felt like there had been tremendous improvement on the block. And even in terms of the drugs, there's our block, and then there's across St. Louis. Right. That block was still pretty rough.
Yes.
And then, the lockdowns hit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that corner.
Whew, tell me about it. That first night, when they quarantined the city, not quarantined, but they told everybody to stay in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Those young people, they're not dumb. Let's get this first. They knew that the police were afraid of this COVID situation. That corner was I've never seen that. It was like watching ants on an anthill. That's how many people were there, and they were jam-packed, and the police couldn't do anything because they're afraid of touching these people and getting COVID. And they just ran rampant, for a while, and eventually, they were able to garner some type of control, but it was...
Well, yeah, one of the craziest moments was that, because I remember those nights, that I'm right by that corner.
Right.
And I remember it was probably 11 o'clock, and pop, 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 pop.
Mm-hmm.
And 6 people had been shot.
Right.
And there was 11, 12. The party kept going.
Yes.
3 in the morning. I'm they were determined. But, I put myself back in my teen, early 20s mentality. And, if I was there as a teenager, I would be doing the same. I would be totally interested in that and doing that, because that's, young people are young people.
Yeah,
but the problem is there's no adults telling young people, hey, you can't do this. This ain't the way to be.
Right. That's what I was about to tell you. You would have done that. I'm going to tell you, my mother, Ida Bell Carr, and my father, MC Carr, that's his name, MC, no other. Had I brought my black butt outside, that's where you would have found the spot where I was. My parents didn't play. We could, during the riots now, a lot of people were running out there. My mother told us if we walked out that door and came in with anything, she was going to make us eat it, whatever it was. She did not allow thievery and that kind of stuff in the house. And also, my generation, had there been this type of epidemic going on, everybody would have been in the house. We wouldn't have these ignorant people who say, oh, I'm doing my research. 90% of the people doing research haven't even graduated from high school. Okay? So what are you going to research? And also, you're saying science. Everything we do is science. The aspirin that you take is science. The pop that you drink is science. The liquor that you drink is science. The weed that you smoke is science. It's science all around you, so it makes no sense to me. The way they're acting, and like I said, in my generation in the 70s, it wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't, everybody, as a matter of fact, they used to herd us up when I was a kid into the assembly hall to give us shots for tuberculosis. I still got the mark. Most people my age have that mark from that shot that they got. It's like a bruise. We had to take the sugar cubes. Can you imagine that? Sugar cubes. And we had to take them for stuff. And so it's totally different now. It's like what the Bible says, they're weaker and wiser. These young people are a lot smarter than we were when we were, even you and me, especially me. Because when I came up, there were no cell phones. There were rotary phones. And the biggest scientific thing that ever happened was the touch tone phone. Before you had the rotary phone.
Yeah, the rotary phones.
And what's so funny about that, if you had a rotary phone and people would come to your house and start making phone calls, you didn't want them to do that. So what you would do, they had an actual lock. I'm serious. The little rotary is fit right up in the hole. You put it right there where the one was at, so they couldn't take the phone or go around.
Wow.
And you didn't have to dial 1 to make a long distance call.
Okay.
And then if you really want to be slick with the, but you don't have to do that now with cell phones. But if, say, for instance, you went to California and you were staying with the relatives, and I wanted to know if you made it. You want to let me know that you made it home properly. I mean, to California, you would call person to person and ask for me. And I would say I'm not there, and they would hang up the call. And that's the way you and I would know.
The way we used to do it in high school is we would call collect, and when you call collect, they say, state your name, and you say, "This is Mo, I made it home safe." And then they say, "No, I don't accept the call," but they got the message. Yeah,
right. Yeah, so it was like that, and so things, they're just changing, and I some for the better, and some I think for the worse. And it's what you mentioned about parenting. We got too many young parents, and now I'm not knocking young parents. I was a parent at 15, so I'm not knocking young parents. What I'm saying is that when you have children, you have to teach them. Okay, you just can't be their friend. You have to be their parent. I have 6 children, 5 living. I got one to be 50 in December, one that's 48, one 45, one 39, one 33. I raised them in 3 different families, but I raised them. Their mothers and I got together, and I'm proud to say that none of my children are in the system. I have 4 sons and 2 daughters. Unfortunately, my youngest son is a victim of gun violence, so I'm one of those parents that, that wants some type of gun control. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in the right to bear arms, but I believe that there should be some type of check. Everybody can't have a gun. Some people are mentally ill. Some people have extensive criminal records, and you're never going to stop criminals from having guns. So people need to stop that crap. All you can do is make it harder for them. You're never going to stop it, And again, like I said, parents need to raise their children. If you even if you're not a religious person, if you just follow the 10 Commandments, that's all. Life would be great. You know what I'm saying? The 10 Commandments set a pattern for you to go. And that's all you have to do. And if we all did that, I think this place, this world, this universe would be much, much better.
Another shameless plug. 10 Commandments. You want to learn about the Bible? Grace and Garfield. We have services on Saturday evenings, 5 o'clock.
Great segue, huh?
Yeah. I'm just opening the door for all these shameless plugs. If you open the door, I can't help but walk through it.
Hey, you know what? With Paul McCarthy, open up the door and come on in. Yeah.
No, I actually also, this might be a little bit of a sidetrack, but I've been wanting to ask you about comedy. Like, why did it just start after retirement, or is this something that you started a long time ago?
Anybody that knows me knows I've been a fool my entire life.
Well, I mean, I've been a fool my entire life, but I don't have the courage to do stand-up.
Well, I did stand-up in 1992. I started in 1992 at a place called All Jokes Aside. My older brother, who's deceased, William Lawrence Bledsoe, dared me, to go on stage. And my brother and I, were like this. I love that man. And he was one of my mentors. He's 8 years older than me. And so, I said, dude, I'm a Marine. I ain't scared of crap, And so I got up there and I wrote my own material and I killed. And it was good. And after that, I pursued it. But the fact that I had children that were small, I could not pursue it the way other people pursued it. They were younger than me, didn't have the responsibilities. But I made it to the finals in the Miller, my tongue gets a little bit tired. I made it to the finals in the Miller Genuine Comedy Search 3 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
I have the plaques for that. And I recently, this past July, was at Riddle's Comedy Club for an opportunity to get a chance to be on a Netflix special. And I won. I'm just waiting for them to tell me when we're going to do the taping. So, all my material, I write myself. I think of things and, and I just write them up. But like I said, I graduated valedictorian from high school in 1973, and I was also the class clown. Spirit Week, I ate 19 Hostess Twinkies in 7 minutes my sophomore year. My junior year, we didn't have Spirit Week. My senior year, I ate 2 lemons, the complete insides of 2 lemons in 10 seconds, and the lemons were this big. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Those are stuff that I probably would never even try.
Oh, well, you know what? I've always been somewhat of the adventurous type because I'm going to tell you how stupid I was as a young man. Growing up in the city, we were growing up 1518 South Sawyer. That's where I grew up at. Building's still there, right next to the church that I fellowship with, Salome Missionary Baptist Church, 1522 South Sawyer. Shameless plug. And
the service is on Sunday.
Yes,
Say
service.
there's no competition. Our service is on Saturday.
So you can go to both.
Yeah, double dipping is okay.
Yeah, I believe in double dipping. And what happened? My mom had some decon poison down there, and decon was much different than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was like flaky, and she had put it down, and she says, "Poison that will kill you. Don't mess with it." So my younger cousin Fred, whom you'll see the diversity in my family. You and him could pass for brothers, curly hair, the whole nine yards.
Yeah.
Okay, we grew up together, and so we were there, and I said, "Hey, Fred, that's rat poison." He said, "It is." I said, "I'm gonna eat some." So I took my fingers and I wrapped it across there. Evidently, I didn't get any of the damn poison on me. I didn't know this all.
Yeah.
And I stood there. He looked at me. He said, "Oh my!" He said, "Canadabelle, Michael just ate some rat poison." And my mother and his mother jumped up. They looked at you. I said, "Yes," and I'm scared now. This is true. It sounds stupid as hell, but it's true. They made me eat Vaseline.
Okay. All right.
And drink water. Then they told me to sit on the couch to see if I was going to die. They didn't call the police. They didn't call the
That's science.
Yeah, that's science. And needless to say, I didn't get sick and I didn't die. So she beat my butt and sent me outside.
That's funny.
Yep.
Now, who would you say are some of your, or if you have any, influences in terms of comedy?
Oh, man, come on. Nobody. Richard Pryor. We're talking about Red Fox. We're talking about, I hate Flip Wilson. George Carlin. Alan.
I can say that now that you mentioned George Carlin, there are times where you remind me of a black George Carlin.
Oh, I'm telling you, I love George Carlin. Him and Richard Pryor in a room together, your face would hurt. I got my other things from Flip Wilson, when he was talking about Geraldine, and I got characters that I do. Red Fox, he signified, I grew up in a house, as a matter of fact, of signification. Mm-hmm. And the reason being, like I told you, my family background, ethnicity is diverse.
Okay.
So my oldest sister is dark as I am. My second oldest sister, Rose, she's lighter than you. As a matter of fact, she thought she was white when she was young, okay? My brother, Lawrence, is brown-skinned, okay? Then my sister, Marianne, was light as you, freckles and red hair, okay?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, oh, wow, yeah. Then my sister, Evelyn, she's dark. And then it's me. As you can see, I'm on the other side of darkness. And then there's my younger sister, Tan, and she's light like you. So growing up in that household, especially, and y'all people don't know this, I'm about to give you an education on black. In the early 60s, all the way back going down, if you call a person black, this complexion that I am, it was a fist fight. I was going to knock the hell out of you. We were going to fight. And growing up, my siblings would do that. We would play checkers, right? So you would have to designate what color you were. So they would go, "I'm red." I wouldn't play because I would refuse to say I'm black. Yeah. I refuse to say it. And then they would call me, my sister made up this song about me. She says, "Bill A.C., see you real soon. K-E-Y. Why? Because we like you. M-O-U-S-E, Blackie Mouse." From the Mickey Mouse.
Yeah,
thing.
from the Mickey Mouse.
I would sit in the window and cry. So my mother would get me and she says, "Okay, fool, this is a skillet." It was a cast iron skillet. She said, "What color is this skillet?" I said, "Black." She said, "Put your hand next to it. Are you that color?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, then you're not black. They're ignorant." But lo and behold, Mr. James Brown, 1968, said loud, "I'm black and I'm proud." Oh, my God. We all were black. Power to the people. Mm-hmm. The light-skinned brothers, y'all are out. Your breeds. We are the real Mandingos. And then we became black. That's how we became black people. And as black people, we are also the only race of people that are freaking chameleons. And what I mean by that, in the early 20s, 30s, we were either Negro or colored. Okay? That's all. And on my birth certificate, my mother and father are colored, but I'm a Negro. So it takes two colors to make a Negro.
That's math. Math
right.
and science. We got it.
Then we became African Americans. No, you're African American according to Jesse Jackson. Then we became African Americans. Now we're black. We have so many damn names for what we are. We're Caucasians, and everybody else are either Spanish or you're Caucasian. Now you could be, whatever, but that Caucasian encompasses there's people from Spain, and a lot of people don't understand that people from Spain are white. They're Caucasian. They speak Spanish, but they're white. You got a lesson today. And also, the next thing is that the Irish, everybody is white except the Hispanics and the black and Indians. So, but we've been what colored,
all the
Negro.
Well, yeah, because we got Spanish, Hispanic, Latino. Now they're trying to do that Latin X thing. It's like,
it's stupid. They get to be Caucasian or white already. We got to be everything else that they think that, that they designate us to be. I mean, basically, we're all human beings.
Yeah, I always find that interesting because actually my wife and I had a conversation about this yesterday because it's like, there's how we talk about each other when we're on the block.
Right.
Well, we'll say all kinds of things. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
Because we kind of all understand each other. But then there's like this academic way. And I feel like too many people are trying to make this absolutized academic.
Right.
I mean, even for my wife is white. But my wife doesn't always think of herself as white, but she more thinks of herself as Dutch because she comes from very solid. Both of her parents are Dutch heritage. Her grandparents on her mom's side actually immigrated from the Netherlands. And I think it was probably a couple generations back in her dad's side, but they're all Dutch. So she thinks of herself as having Dutch culture rather than necessarily white culture.
I got what you said.
And so, certainly I feel like that's a much better way of thinking about, like, I'm Latino, Hispanic, whatever, but I'm Puerto Rican. Both my parents Puerto Rican, all my grandparents are Puerto Rican. And there's a difference culturally between Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Argentinians, and there's some similarities.
Right.
But it's just the whole label. People get on that label kick. Like if somebody says, "Oh, you're Latino," I'm not gonna. No, excuse me, I'm Puerto Rican. And actually, we used to have fun, in high school, making all the black people call me Mexican because they knew I wasn't.
Right, to piss you off. Just stick. And I understood that because growing up at 1518 South Sawyer, these are my boundaries that I knew. When you crossed North Avenue, it was Humboldt Park because I'm right off Kansas. When you cross 22nd Street, Humboldt Park is all Puerto Ricans, okay? You cross 22nd Street, it was Mexicans, Chicanos.
Yeah.
So I knew about the Latin saints over there. I knew about the gangs over there, and I knew about the gangs in the middle. And I also knew that you did not call a Mexican Puerto Rican or a Puerto Rican Mexican. It's like call a Jamaican black. Oh, no, I'm not Jamaican. I'm not black. And a better example that I had to go to the eye doctor. And so the doctor looks at my mom. We both got the same eye doctor. He looks at me and stuff, and then he pulls me to the side. I said, Mr. Carr, I'd like to talk to you. And I want to ask you a question, and please don't be offended. Now, let's think about this. What the hell can an eye doctor say to you that would be offensive? It may hurt your feelings like you're going blind or something like that. But what could he possibly say to you that's going to make you upset? So I said, well, ask the question. He says, what are you? And I'm baffled. I'm like, what do you mean, what am I? He says, well, what race are you? So you tell me. Oh, see, I knew you. I said, I'm not upset, but you see the obvious. I'm black. Well, I know you're black, but you and your mom, you have this condition called ARES, acute retinal eye deficiency. And she said, it's only predominant in white people.
So you've been white this whole time.
I didn't know. But I told him, I said, I'm not offended about that. I said, you got to realize nobody is 100% anything. I said, when I was in the Marine Corps, I loved this. This guy, we got tested for sickle cell. And this white guy is as white could be. I'm talking blonde hair, blue eyes, okay? And myself and another guy had to go to sick bay because the Marine Corps, they don't have doctors as the Navy, so we go to sick bay. And because we had sickle cell traits. Get your mouth together, man. And he's looking at me and goes like, I'm white. I said, hey, dude, There's always one in the wood, pal. I said, welcome to home, brother.
That's funny.
Yeah, because he was really upset about it. Come to find out it was a glitch. He didn't have it. But, you know, I do have ARES. But like I said, it's white in my family. It's everything. I mean, you know, I can only trace back what I was told and what I've seen. But nobody is 100% anything.
Yeah.
You know, when I went to Puerto Rico, you know, I was in the Marine Corps, I got there, and they ran up to me and started speaking Spanish. And I'm going like, what the hell? Then I look up, right. Puerto Rico is like 85% black. Then I went to Cuba. Oh, crap. It's 85% black. I'm like, oh, my God. You know, you look at these things. When I went to Haiti is all black. You know, but, damn it, I just went there for a vacation. The Dominican Republic. They're mixed. You know, it's skin colors. I mean, they're black, but I'm just saying they're skin colors.
I mean, even sometimes the same people, like Sammy Sosa used to be black, but now he's white.
Oh, man, Sammy Sosa. I don't know what the
Actually, he's more like pink.
Yeah, because I had a guy in the Marine Corps that did that.
Yeah.
That bleached his face. They got this stuff.
How do you do that?
It's called, you know, I don't know if they still sell it now, but we're going back, 40 some odd years ago.
Yeah.
Bleach and glow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm
serious. Soul Glow and Bleach and Glow.
Yeah, Bleach and glow. The guy was dark as me. He was from South Carolina. He was ass black. Okay, and people said, well, why would you say that? If you ever notice on people, especially black people, their ass is usually darker than their face, and their ass never gets any sunlight.
You know, I will honestly say I don't think I've ever noticed that because I don't think I've looked at. And maybe I haven't looked at enough black butts.
Yeah, well, you know, you can't now because you're married.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this podcast, if you say anything she sees, you're in trouble.
So, oh, yes, I've noticed the same trend. Oh, I mean, no, I do.
So that's how that is. And you know, I just say that, you know, as a human being, we should all try to strive to get together. You know, we all have our little idiosyncrasies and our little prejudice and stuff. That goes, but prejudice is something that is taught and is not born with, because your kids and the kids around here, nobody goes around and talking. And when I was in high school, nobody talked. You know what I'm saying? We got along. Yeah, we're gonna disagree. You know, nobody gets teeth and gum fall out. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be that, you know, but it shouldn't be to the point where it is like you walk, oh God, there goes that black, oh Jesus Christ, that one of them Latins. You know, it's you judge this person only because of what you've seen happen someplace else. It had nothing to do with that person. You know, it's like me hating all white people for slavery. None of these white people were slave owners. Maybe their generations ago, their parents were, but that has nothing to do with me. I have no animosity toward them. You know, the only time I have animosity is when they try to judge me, and I love it because they'll see and they'll talk to me, and then I'll start talking. And see, I've learned English, and that's one thing that they don't seem to understand. When I worked at the railroad, I was the only black guy in this office, and some of my buddies would come by. You know, they work for the railroad too, and we would talk and stuff like that. And my boss says, you know, Mike, he says, when your friends come over, he says, you really talk different. And when you're with us, you sound like us. I said, that's because I'm bilingual. He goes, what? I said, I'm bilingual. I said, did you understand anything he was saying? He said, well, I got a few words. I said, well, that's slang. That's what black people talk. I said, but I went to a predominantly white high school, and I couldn't speak ghetto in that school because I would fail English. So I had to learn to speak English, but I couldn't come home and speak English because they said I sound white, which is really stupid because it's English. But then I had to fight. So I had to learn to be educated in school and one of the fellas in the hood.
Yeah, you know, I've actually had the same thing. I talk because you know, my church is in a predominantly Dutch, and it's become a bit more white over the past few decades. But the history is Dutch, and when I'm talking in that context, obviously I speak English fairly well, and people have a hard time believing that I was born and raised on the West Side. Like they're like, oh, come on.
I know.
You just talk like the rest of us. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
And then,
I know.
But then if they ever see me, you know, talking to the guys in the corner or whatever, it's like, or sometimes if they hear me, like if I lose my temper or something like that, like, oh, they get really scared because I start speaking differently. It's just like, no, there are two ways of. There's the ghetto speak, there's the street talk,
right,
and then there's proper English. And yes, I can do both, but neither one defines
who you
I
are.
am.
Right. I'm a hodgepodge of 65 years of combinations of, dealing with the military, being in an unpopular war, coming home, getting spat on, by Hare Krishnas, people saying you're a baby killer when they had no idea what the hell was going on. People were anti-military. I think the worst thing that ever happened to America was they took away the draft. And the reason why I say that is I understood that it was disproportional as to who were drafted. But one thing that black people and Hispanic people have not realized about the armed forces and what they've done. In the early 70s and 80s, if you did not have a high school diploma, you could go into the military, get your GED, and make a career out of it, make a life. The military found out that over 70% of the Army were black. They did not want that. I mean, we still have prejudice in this. I mean, you can look it up. I'm not making up anything. That over 70% of, so they changed the rules. Now you have to have a high school diploma to get in there, which is not bad. But when you got children out here that aren't doing right, the military is the way to go. When I went in the Marine Corps, I had 4 guys in there that had to with me. They had to graduate from boot camp and spend 4 years and get an honorable discharge, or they're going 10 years in prison for selling cocaine. 2 were white, 1 was Hispanic, and 1 was black. And the drill instructors knew that. You had to. Now, what I'd rather, as a human being that got caught up in some crap, rather do 4 years in the Marine Corps where I can walk around, be free, and I'm not in this little cage and stuff, and I can do what I want to do. All I got to do is 4 years. I'm going to get paid. I got food. I got ammunition. If they tell me to kill somebody, I can do it. I'm not going to jail. Since that's what they like doing. And they will learn something. But they don't do that anymore. And I think that should be reinstated. I think half these young men, if they were forced to go into the military, because if you threw up in there, you get a dishonorable discharge and you're going to prison. That's a double whammy.
Well, and just even the discipline aspect.
Right.
Like when I was out of high school, my first plan was to go to Air Force. And I remember when I decided, okay, I'm going into the Air Force, a lot of my family was disappointed. Like their view was, no, Mo, you're the smart one. You're the one that does good in school. You need to go to college and be something, whatever. Now, I didn't end up going to the Air Force, but that was because my swearing date was actually September 11, 2001. And that just threw a wrench in that whole plan. And I ended up going to college. But I'm like, I'm remarkably undisciplined in terms of like exercise, making my bed, stuff like that. There are so many aspects of my life that would have been better in terms of just discipline and accomplishing things if I just would have done the military that everybody was looking down on. Now, I wouldn't change it because I love my wife, I love my kids, I love the journey that I've been on. But I'm just like, when I was a teacher, and part of the reason I stopped teaching was because I was like, guys, because I taught on the West Side, military is a great option for you.
Right.
I mean, no debt.
Right.
Jobs look very favorably at military experience. Travel for free. You get to the discipline of just being able to get up in the morning, getting fit. I mean, there's so many things that it would make you better. But the whole administration is like, no, go to college. Go spend tens of thousands of dollars. Some of these kids could barely read. I was like, I can't be part of the system that is encouraging these kids to destroy their lives with debt.
Right.
Rather than do something productive.
Right.
Yeah.
And they can get education. That's the one thing that I try to express to people. Me being in the Marine Corps was one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. I can be disciplined when I want to. And the fact of the matter is that I'm 65 years old, and I'm a sophomore in college pursuing my second associate's degree. I got one in 1985, associate in liberal arts, and I graduated with honors, and I was 30 years old at that time. Now, 35 years later, fast forward, I'm going to school for music, and I've always wanted to learn to read and write music and play the piano, but I didn't do it. And one reason, I had children at an early age. I was in the military, and I didn't pursue it. But that discipline that I got in the Marine Corps, I decided to do that because, I spoke with you about it, and I found out that you were a music teacher, and then your wife, and then Tom across the street. He helped me out a lot, got me in there. And when I went in, I knew nothing about music. I couldn't tell you what a triad was from a seventh note, to when you breaking down your notes. When you want to know the dominant of C, you got to know your circle of fifths.
Yeah.
You got to know your circle of thirds. I've invented the circle of fourths, and everybody says, "What do you mean?" Because when you look at BED all the way on your flats, they're only 4 apart. I just happen to realize that, so I call them my circle of force. So these are all things that I've learned at an old age. All my classmates are my grandchildren's age. My teachers are my children's age. And I felt somewhat awkward about that. But then I thought about it. I'm here for me to get education, and I'm doing it. And I don't know how I did it with the grace of the man upstairs. But my first 2 semesters, I made the dean's list. Nice. I'm in my 3rd semester now. Hopefully, I'll do as well. Because it gets harder as you go up.
And I think the wisdom in that is that you've raised your families.
Yes.
You're retired.
Yes.
You know what you want to study. Like for me, when I went to college, I had no idea what I wanted. That was part of why I was going to do the military, was because even now I think about going back to school, and I don't know what I want to go back to school for. Most pastors have a Master's Divinity. I was able to sidestep that a bit, but there's part of me like, I kind of want to go get that. I've also been very interested in psychology. So, I want to get a Master's in Psychology. I'm also doing all the construction development in the neighborhood. So I'm like, maybe I should get a business degree or something like that. But like you, it's like, I want to do music. I know that. And because you're older, there's a maturity about how you approach that. And I feel like there's so many kids, 18, 19, going into college, they got no idea what they're doing. They're doing it because somebody else told them this is what you got to do. But they're going for degrees and stuff that they don't know that they want to do. They're going to change their mind in a few years, but they're spending tens of thousands of dollars on it.
Getting a lot of debt. Like my grandson, he had a scholarship, to go to Howard University for biological chemical engineering. Had he not got that scholarship, man, we couldn't afford to send him there. But see, he really wanted. My grandson went to Whitney Young. He's smart, and then he met this young lady down there. She's of Haitian descent, and she's extremely smart. Her name is Samantha. And during the time they met at Howard, she ends up working for NASA.
Oh, wow.
Okay, when the shuttle landed on, not the shuttle, but when the robot landed on Mars, she was watching it real time in my house.
Oh, wow.
Real time. We saw it later on. I wasn't down there with her, but we saw it on the news. She saw it real time. They piped up. As a matter of fact, she graduated summa cum laude from Howard.
Okay.
Then she got a fellowship to get a master's degree at Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
Full ride.
Nice. And that's the way to go. It's like if you can get scholarships, and like I remember when I was graduated high school, thinking about college, I'm confident that I could have qualified for a bunch of scholarships, but I just had no idea where to look for this. So I used to tell my students when I was teaching, if you can go to college for free or cheap,
go
do it.
Right.
Like, go to state school, go to junior college, do it cheap. Because what's going to happen, you're going to get seduced by this super expensive college, out of state, whatever. They're going to sell you because that's what those admission people do. They sell it to you.
Right.
And you're going to be paying tens of thousands of dollars, and you might change your mind.
Right.
And you still got to pay that back because they're not going to deny you the student loan.
Right.
They're going to give you that loan.
Yeah, so they can get that money.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, the money.
But and I used to get in a conflict with the school counselors and administrators all the time because I'm like, no, don't send these kids to college. And if you do, send them to state school. It's so much cheaper.
Yeah, I'm paying $1,600 for 5 courses. I'm taking oral skills 3, music theory 3. I'm taking audio digital because I want to get a certificate in music. I'm taking voice because I have to do that, and I'm taking piano because I have to do that as well.
You're doing solfege?
Yes. So if I went to a major university, we're not talking $1,600 at all.
Yeah.
We're talking less than $400 a course. I mean, less than $300. A little over $300 a course for me.
Yeah. Now, luckily, I'm pastor talking about luck, right? By God's grace, I ended up going to Moody Bible Institute for college, which that's a tuition-paid school. If you get accepted, tuition is covered. All I had to pay was room and board, and then, books and fees and things like that. So I actually did have to take a couple of loans for the room and board in my later years, but I graduated and I had $15,000 of student debt, which was
minuscule compared to the hundreds of thousands of debt that people have amassed. Like, think about our president, Barack Obama. They just paid, him and his wife just paid off their student loans, and you're gonna frick this dude is the president now. And why didn't they didn't absolve him? It doesn't matter your status. They had to pay it off, and that's why I agree with you that they should have a mandatory, like in Germany, When you get out of high school, if you're not going to go to college, you got to do 2 years. Israel does it.
Yeah, a lot.
You know,
Korea, I think, does it too. A lot of countries do it.
it helps because the one thing that makes me upset with these young people is you want so much, but you don't want to work. You are not entitled to anything other than to breathe. Okay, you are entitled. Air is free. You outside, you don't have a place to stay, no clothes, anything, but you can breathe for free. That's the only thing that's free. You got to pay for your clothes. You got to pay for your house, unless you have somebody take care of you. And if that person leaves, how you going to take care of yourself? They will take care of you. So you need to have this. Nothing is free. You're not entitled, And that's what they had. And then they want to flash. If you make $8 an hour, live like you make $8 an hour.
Yeah.
Don't overextend yourself.
Well, and that used to drive me nuts. I actually used to work for a company that tried to create unions, and one of the campaigns that I worked on was fighting to raise minimum wage. And while I was working there, I could never get some of the arguments in my head. Like there was somebody should be able to live off of minimum wage, and I'm like, but I was just like, if you're a grown adult, why is it that you're still making minimum wage? Like, I made minimum wage as an adult, but I didn't stay there. The goal is you get raises and you move up, you get promotions and things like that. If I'm my age now and I'm still making minimum wage, there's a problem. Now, it's different if you're an immigrant and you've come in, or maybe you have special needs or something like that. That's different. But if you're a normal American citizen and you're in your 30s and still making minimum wage, that didn't just happen.
Right.
That happened because maybe you got fired a lot from other jobs. There's other things, and I think those ought to be addressed before we start making the government give you a raise.
Right. But now I think also minimum wage is to keep the companies from gouging you as well. But I got to tell you this. It's really going to...
And that's why I worked for the company initially, because I'm like, yeah, of course, minimum wage. But then I started hearing the arguments that they were making, and I'm just like, I don't know that I can support those arguments. Like, I can support we want to protect from companies being bogus.
Yeah, but not
I
that.
Get
you
that.
Can't live up minimum wage. You can't live up because, excuse me, when I was a young boy, I worked at this nursing home right here on the west side on Albany, Sacred Heart Home right there on Albany. It's like 16-something on Albany right from Douglas Park. I started working. I made minimum wage. And do you know what minimum wage was in 1970?
And 1970 would have been like 65 cents?
No, $1.45.
$1.45.
Now, I was a dishwasher, okay? And I got that job when I was 14, okay? And I graduated from high school at 17 in 1973, okay? I started in 1970. When I left there, I was making $2.20 an hour. I was making more money than a lot of adults that worked at that nursing home because I had a good work ethic at the time. Because my mom being from the South, my dad being from the South, I learned how to do gardening. I was forced to make my bed. I'm a hell of a cook, and I learned all that through my mom, but I look at 17 years old in high school, I'm making $2.20 an hour, and you got grown men making $1.45 an hour upset with me at the same place. But because of my work ethic, I did whatever they asked me. I was a dishwasher, but I also did floors. I learned how to buff I learned everything to do in that establishment. So when I wasn't washing dishes, I was doing something else. So they compensated me for that because I showed the initiative at a young age to do things. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying to these young people. You can't do it. And then, I'm not against weed. Never have been. And weed is not having for me because if it was, I'd be the biggest addict in the world because back in the day, in the 70s, we smoked weed. And it was totally different. To show you economic prices. 4 fingers of weed when I was a kid was $10. I don't know what it costs now because I don't know what they got going. I'm not going to these companies to buy anything because I don't want to pay all those taxes and stuff. And the second thing, I don't buy anything for anybody on the street because you don't know what the hell they put in it. So it's kind of hard, to do that, but it's not a habit for me. But my thing is they want to get high and go to work. You cannot do your job high.
Or go to school.
You can't do it. It does not work. I was a mechanic at the post office, and I didn't work on cars. I worked on the machine that processed the mail. So when you look at these commercials for FedEx and all these, and you see these boxes going across these things, I fixed those machines. I can tell you how they work. And those machines are not friendly to people or anything else. So if you stuck your damn hand in your high in one of those graters and it grabs your finger, it's not going to go, oh my God, that's a human being. It's going to eat your ass up. So what we have to do is we put sensors in between them. So if something falls in between there, the machine stops. It's not going to stop right away, but it'll stop enough where maybe you'll save the rest of your hand. You won't have no fingertips or something like that. But if you're high, you cannot perform your job. And that's what they don't understand. They want to get high. They want to make all the money in the world. They want to, I don't feel like going to work. I ain't going.
And or the other aspect of it is because, how the brain works, it's, if you're sleep deprived, it has some similar effects of being drunk or high. And so they'll go to these parties till 3, 4 in the morning and then try to go to work and then wonder why boss is upset at them. And it's just like,
hey, he tripping. I don't know why he messing with me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to have a good time. Well, as a boss, I'm not concerned with your good time. I'm concerned with getting the job done. You do that well, I'm not going to ask you where you were last night. Everything's done well. I'm like, great. But if it's not done well, why is it not done well?
And then another thing, I'm going to have to go because I got to go study. But another thing that gets me, and I've seen this at every job I've ever worked, okay? I'm going to pull you in office. I'm going to say, Mo, I need to talk to you. Your performance is not up to par, Mo. I mean, you get here on time, but you're just not doing the work. You got stuff that's late all the time. I'm not understanding. The first thing you say, well, Bob, Mo, we're not talking about Bob. We're talking about you. We're talking about your job. I'll deal with Bob. I'm dealing with you. And then they get mad. Well, you showing them favoritism. CYA, cover your ass. Okay? When you got a job, I don't give a damn if nobody else is doing anything that they're supposed to do. Do your job. Your job is for you, not for them. You get that paycheck. Your name is on that paycheck, not theirs. And they don't get that. They got this mentality like you outside at a party. And
that kind of brings the full circle because where do you learn that? And it's typically from your parents, parents, grandparents, etc. The adults in your life putting it through, and it seems like not a lot of adults are doing their job in that regard.
No, they're not, because my kids always knew their mother and father always worked. Always. And my dad, growing up now, my mother said my father was a gambler, which he was, but my father would be at home Sunday night till Friday morning, and we wouldn't see him again till Sunday night. Sometimes he came home with a bunch of money, sometimes he didn't. But my father got up Monday morning and went to work. I don't care how drunk he came home. He got up, and my father did not have education. My father could not read. My father could not write. My mother only had a 6th grade education. But yet, here they raised several kids. My oldest sister she graduated from high school. My second oldest sister has a degree. And I'm the only one that has a degree. Everybody else graduated from high school and got jobs and things of that nature. But I'm just saying that we all got, our 12 years of education. That where my parents never got, we surpassed them. And that was a good thing, and that they instilled in us and being from the South and having that hard, stern work ethic and being, my father always said, be at work on time, get to work early, don't get there just on time. I like to get to work early, at least 30 minutes early so I can sit down, drink me some coffee. When I was a smoker, I used to smoke cigarettes. I stopped smoking cigarettes, and then I'm about to let you go on this because I'm a talker. But
I couldn't tell.
But cigarettes when I was a kid, 25 cents a pack.
Ooh.
Okay, think about them now. When I was in the Marine Corps in 1973, they had gone up to like 60 cents a pack, but we get them at the PX for 30 cents a pack. Okay, when I stopped smoking cigarettes, they were $2.50 a pack, and I quit cold turkey. I just stopped. They were $2.50 a pack. I have no idea what they are now, but just to show you.
A lot more than that.
Yeah.
All right, Mike Wells. A pleasure talking with you.
Well, thank you, Mo.
That is Michael Carr from the West Side.
Yes, the best side.
The West Side is the best side. Stay tuned. If you enjoyed this content, please like, share, subscribe. Wow, I say that. Hear that all the time.
Yes.
I've always wanted to say it.
Yes.
Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
You all take care. Bye.